Good evening and welcome to Tuesday's edition of the State of Scottish Football. I am David Smith and we've got a debutant this evening. We've got two dandies in the show, in fact. We've got what Aberdeen fans might recognise as a recognisable face. He does the Red Tinted Glass podcast. Of course, we are live across all those social media channels. We are live across Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and basically everything. But we've got Glenn Schroeder with us this evening. And Glenn, how are we this evening?
I'm great, Dave. Thanks very much for the introduction. Looking forward to being a part of the show when available, and obviously speaking about Scotland tonight.
Absolutely. So, looking ahead to the Scotland game this evening, obviously a week's a long time in football, Glenn. And last Wednesday there was so much negativity after the Denmark defeat, and there was still negativity on Saturday evening, despite beating Moldova 1-0. But heading into tonight, is a victory tonight kind of lead to more positivity, do you think, from a Scotland point of view?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't negative after last week as such. I was maybe negative in the manner of defeat, but if you think of the context of the group, if Denmark are going to sweep everybody aside, what we did was we kept our goal difference all right, I suppose, in only losing 2-0. But the negativity around the weekend result was that we should have really improved our goal difference and scored lots of goals. So I think, and scoring goals has been such a major problem for this Scottish team in recent months. So I think that's where the negativity is coming ahead of tonight, because there's so much uncertainty whether we can be clinical enough in front of goal. And with Israel's result at the weekend, 5-2 victory over tonight's opponents, Austria, it's really emphasized how much we need to be clinical and take that opportunity. And for me, I know some people think a point will do tonight, but if we want to make life a little bit easier, but that's not really the Scotland way of doing things, then we really need to be looking at 3 points tonight.
Absolutely. I forgot to mention at the top of the show, by the way, that Scotland under 21s, the game's obviously live in BBC Scotland. They're up 1-0 against
Turkey.
It's Turkey, of course. Glenn Middleton opening the scoring after a cross from Adam Montgomery. But on to the Austria game this evening, and we simply need to improve on events across both Wednesday and Saturday. But Austria aren't exactly in a good way at this precise moment in time, and the manager's under intense pressure there.
Yeah, and I don't really know if that's kind of going to suit us tonight. They'll be playing in front of their home crowd. And is that something that we can maybe play on? Because there's unrest, I think, amongst the support, like you touched on there, the managers under pressure. They've got a few injuries to deal with. So, hopefully if we can, frustrate them, and maybe an early goal from our point of view, and really continue to frustrate the hosts. And I just really don't know how we're going to approach this game.
Absolutely, because I mean, in terms of Scotland and the amount of points we probably need, do you think 18 or 15 to 18 is a reasonable enough target for Scotland?
Yeah, I think 18 is probably the target that you're wanting to look at, and I suppose maybe the point situations begin to reassess as each game goes along. And I think we have to win this game to give ourselves the best opportunity going forward into the October set of fixtures, because we're all saying if we win tonight, we're assuming that the Israelis aren't going to pick up anything in Copenhagen, and that would put us a point ahead. That would put us into second place going into next month's first game, which is against the Israelis at Hampden. And then obviously you go into 2 games against Moldova and Faroe Islands, both away from home. You look at that as demanding 6 points, and then hopefully you're going into the last set of fixtures still in second place. So a point tonight means we're still behind Israel regardless of what they do, which then intensifies the pressure going into October's round of fixtures. So for me, I would like to see us going out and going for the game, which is why I was personally a bit disappointed by Callum McGregor's comments about it being a must not lose game tonight.
That's the thing with regards to Callum McGregor. It probably questions the mentality in the Scotland camp at this precise minute in time when Callum McGregor's making comments like he did yesterday.
Yeah, and I mean, is that the mentality that's coming down from the hierarchy of the management, or is that just the the mouthpiece for the media, so that the expectation isn't raised and the squad secretly know that, yeah, we are going to go and win this, but they don't want to put too much pressure on themselves.
Absolutely. I mean, with regards to the heading into tonight, a win would be massive just in terms of our expectations, because Israel's a winnable game, and Saturday night, we're just seeing based on Saturday night that anybody can get a result against anybody. I mean, nobody was expecting Denmark to go to the Faroes and pick up a point, and I don't think a lot of people were expecting Austria to drop points against Israel either.
Yeah, well, Denmark actually they did beat the Faroes. It was a very late goal, but no, it's okay. Just but probably nobody expected them to only win by the one goal. In that, a few folk probably had about 3 or 4 goals for the Danes. But you're right. But I think, Israel, you would say, is a winnable game, but we've not beaten them, or we've only beaten them once inside 90 minutes, and that was under Alex McLeish. So again, you take that point, and Steve Clarke's yet to beat an Israel side inside 90 minutes. So that's why, for me, if you're looking at it from what's the best for Scotland to get second place, because let's be honest, getting first is gone, we need to be winning tonight.
Steve Clarke under pressure, do you think, or do you think he deserves time?
Well, see, this is where I don't understand the contract extension that he got, because how can he be under pressure when we've just given him an extension for the next qualifying campaign? Because it will look a terrible decision from the SFA. And it's not only terrible, but it'd be an expensive decision to get rid of him. I said we'll wait and see. When folk were getting frustrated after the Denmark game, I said, let's see where we are after Tuesday. Then I'll assess my options. So I think, let's see where we are at full time tonight. But I think the SFA have made their beds, and will be with Steve Clarke at least till halfway through the next campaign for the Euros, and depending how that's going will depend on his future.
Looking back on a coaching point of view, was you surprised? Not surprised, but what was your thoughts when Austin McPhee got the assistant coach role for Scotland? Because it took everybody by surprise when he was announced as the new assistant coach.
It was a surprising one, but he's been established on the international stage at Northern Ireland, and they've had a almost better run in major tournaments and certainly qualifying campaigns when he's been alongside Michael O'Neill. So if he's got something different that can help us in the long run, let's see what happens.
Absolutely. With regards to tonight, Glenn, do you think we need to play more expansive attacking football? Obviously, keep a balance in terms of we need to have a balance at the back, but would you like to see Scotland be a lot more exposed towards opponents?
Well, if you're judging it on Saturday, we were certainly more expansive. We just weren't clinical enough.
Yeah.
Certainly more expansive compared to what we saw in Copenhagen, because at the end of the day, if you're wanting to qualify for these major tournaments, we were pot 3 we were going into this qualifying campaign. Yeah. You're going to need to go and take points off of your pot 1 and pot 2. We've not taken anything from Denmark. We've taken 1 from Austria. Ideally, you're going to want to be taking 4. So whilst we need to obviously keep it safe at the back, I would like us to go with 2 up top tonight and actually put the Austrians under pressure, because Che Adams had a tough shift with Ryan Fraser up top in Copenhagen. It didn't really work, and it only did start to work once Lyndon Dykes came on, albeit maybe you could argue that Denmark took their foot off the gas. But we need to show more intent across 90 minutes, not just a second 45.
A lot of debate was made in the State of Scottish Football show last night with regards to Lyndon Dykes and Kevin Nisbet playing together. Do you think it's a good partnership, or would you want to see a few tweaks here and there?
I wasn't very impressed with Kevin Nisbet on Saturday. I just didn't really, other than his involvement in the goal, and I know he had the pass for Billy Gilmore, but I didn't really see what else he offered. I think Lyndon Dykes is a good target man that builds off like attacks. We saw in Serbia how well he held the ball up and used that well with Ryan Christie. I would really like us to kind of persist with Dykes and Adams, because Adams is a Premier League striker. He's got all that quality, can create something out of nothing. So for me, that would be the partnership that I would like to see. But it seems as if Steve Clarke is viewing Adams more of an impact striker to kind of exploit the a tired defence as the game goes on.
And with Sabitzer out for Austria tonight, there's real opportunity. Because, I mean, you compare our, we'll get on to Austria later on the show, but you compare our midfield to Austria's midfield, and there's a lot more ball winners for Scotland.
Yeah, a lot more ball winners in our midfield. And I think, you just need to see what Billy Gilmore's offered our midfield so far, that little bit of composure. I fully expect Callum McGregor to come back into midfield tonight from our point of view. Obviously, he didn't start at the weekend. I think, Steve Clarke definitely had one eye on the game tonight at the weekend, judging by after, 70 minutes taking off the likes of Andy Robertson. Seemed that we were just accepting of the 1-0, and don't know if we were just kind of accepting that this was the bigger game. But I think this is why I think there was a lot of frustration for me from Saturday, because we've gone and kind of took our eye and focused on tonight. So if we don't go and back that up with a result, then surely we should have just gone and tried to score as many as we could against the Moldovans at Hampden.
Various things have been made with regards to Paul McGinn getting called up to the squad, but first and foremost, I'll get your opinion on Nathan Patterson, because this injury's or this call-off's probably came at the wrong time for Patterson, considering the performance he put in at the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't, Patterson was good, right? But he wasn't amazing.
Yeah,
cool. He was good bombing forward. I'm yet to see, you said there's two dandies on the show. Calvin Ramsey's been playing week in, week out, and I think Nathan Patterson showed he hasn't been playing regularly so far this season. I know there was possibly the COVID effects he may or may not have been suffering with. I'm not too sure. But yeah, the injury, call-off, whatever it is, that's why he's not on the squad, has come at the wrong time, because we are now forced to play Stephen O'Donnell tonight. I know he's a player that splits opinion in the Tartan Army, but he's a player that's not played yet this international break. His last game will have been whoever Motherwell played, Dundee, I think it was. So, again, we're playing players that are maybe just a bit coming in from the cold, not had that minutes under their belt. And I just hope that doesn't catch him out tonight.
On the right backs front, and you've made a good point with regards to Ramsey, but you've also got likes of Arvid and Alston, Sean Rooney, that could be worth a shout. But do you think Clark's went with Paul McGinn, just as more of an understanding, just in terms of Clark's worked with Paul McGinn beforehand?
Well, I don't know. To be honest, I've seen someone even make the point of Aaron Hickey. He's in Bologna, which is only 4 hours from Vienna. So if you wanted someone that could just nip across and meet the squad quickly, there was your man there. Another player that doesn't seem to get much of a look in the squad. So Hibs fans may agree, may disagree, but I certainly don't think he's international quality. But it could just well be that, like you said there, Clarke seems to pick players that he knows can play to certain systems. We saw that with Andy Constein's call-up last year. He knew Constein could play left of a back three, and that's why he slotted in there. Obviously, Constein not involved anymore, but yeah, it's an interesting viewpoint. But fans don't like to see these random players. They like to go with players in form, and yeah, you picked off two there, and Ralston and Rooney as well. So.
Absolutely. On to Austria, and I touched upon it just a short time ago with regards to Sabitzer, but Austria are definitely taking this evening, and what the opportunity for Scotland to get a positive result out of this game this evening.
Yeah, huge. And I can't remember what his last name is. It's Salajic, the guy who scored twice at Hampden. He's obviously out injured as well, so it'll be Marko and Arnautovic leading the line. He scored against Moldovan. I think he scored a stunner in Haifa as well. But, we've got to take advantage. This isn't a full-strength Austrian team. We maybe regretted not taking full advantage against an understrength Austrian side at Hampden, obviously drawing that game 2-2. Can we go away from home and produce a result? We saw us, put in a fair performance at Wembley against England to draw that game 0-0. I would actually like to see us play a similar style to how we did that night at Wembley. Come out from the off, put the Austrians under pressure. Don't let them settle. Similar. We let Denmark settle in Copenhagen. Let them pass the ball about. Let's go out there and stamp our own authority on the game. and put the pressure on them. You said their manager's under pressure. So let's keep that pressure on. Let's not let them grow into it.
Last question relates to Austria. In fact, the manager was in the press yesterday saying that Scotland's a long ball team. Do you think it was disrespectful from the Austrian gaffer?
I could say it's mind games. I think there is aspects of our game, especially when Lyndon Dykes is in the team. We are a long ball team, up to him for hold-up play. But I think we do have players, and I think that's where it's going to be interesting to see what team line we go with tonight. Because if we do just have, say, Dykes up top and play a Ryan Christie off of him, we could use either a long ball or we can go, into feet, and we've got runners off of Dykes with Christie. Gilmore can pick a pass, hopefully have some pace in the wings. We know what Robertson can do from left wing back. So maybe disrespectful, but I'll just say it's mind games.
And I got far too excited about how Scotland are currently third, a point above Austria and just behind Israel, by forgetting Israel, in fact, beat Austria 5-2 at the weekend. Somebody's actually mentioned it in the comments. Glenn, Austria play a 3-4-3 formation, which is open, but at the same time, if you're looking at it from a more forward-thinking point of view, they score goals as well.
Yeah, they do. And, something that Clarke was brought into was to kind of keep us defensively sound. And I think that's where we want to see expansive football, what you mentioned earlier in the show. But tonight, if we're wanting to win the game, we've got to be keeping clean sheets. And I'm just going to be interested to see, again, touching on the team line there, will we make tweaks in defence? I know obviously we're going to have likely be Stephen O'Donnell filling in at right back. Will Jack Hendry keep his place, or will we see a Declan Gallagher, Liam Cooper maybe come in? And I think if we go with Jack Hendry, that allows us a bit of a ball-playing defender to, start attacks. But some may say we want a more solid centre half to deal with what can be probably quite a rapid Austrian attack. They'll certainly pass the ball about well. And yeah, we've just got to be really clever tonight. We can't be as sloppy as we were in Copenhagen. If we do concede, we can't then 90 seconds later find ourselves 2-0 down. And we need to be very streetwise tonight.
It's the three players to watch out for yourself: Arnautovic, Baumgartner, if I've pronounced that right, and Alba.
Yeah, Baumgartner, I noticed he limped off against Moldova. I'm assuming he played. I haven't checked the Austrian.
He scored on Saturday evening.
Did he? Yeah, so I was hoping that he might have not made it tonight. But yeah, the quality he can bring. Key player in the Bundesliga, and Arnautovic, everyone's seen what quality he shows. Alba, I noticed he wasn't, he didn't start against the Moldovans, I believe, but yeah, again, another experienced player that offers a lot. But we can't just be, focusing on three key players. We've got our own players that will hopefully cause the Austrians a lot of problems. But we've got to remember, if we just focus on, say, like a Baumgartner or an Arnautovic, if we just take our eye off another player, they'll pop up and punish us as well. We need to, respect the Austrians as a whole. But we saw in the game at Hampden, you said that they certainly play expansive football and can cause problems going forward. I think we saw enough from the reverse fixture at Hampden that we can certainly cause them problems defensively. Yeah. Hopefully, we've been creating plenty of chances in recent matches, but just not taking them. So hopefully we can start doing that tonight, and it's no time like the present.
You mentioned earlier that you wanted two up front tonight, and the fact that Austria play three at the back, do you think that's going to be a massive help if we can get the system right?
If we can get the system right, yeah, it will be a massive help. And I think that's why I'm interested to see if we do go two up top, do we go, Dykes and Adams, or do we go Dykes and Christie? It's going to be an interesting one, because I thought Ryan Fraser might have actually played tonight had he not, pulled out with an injury, because I liked what he was doing in Denmark, causing a lot of problems, providing that extra bit of pace from a right wing back role. But you could push him up top as well as an attacking threat from an attacking midfielder. So it's really going to be getting that right link up, because again, going back to that Denmark game, the two up top didn't work because you didn't have the balls going into the right areas. We were playing long balls to Shea Adams, who isn't that type of striker. He wants his ball at the feet. So we do go two up top. If you mix it with tall and small, it gives us options either to be a long ball team, or you have someone that can drop in, receive the ball to feet, and then Dykes is, occupying defenders because he is a big physical presence as well.
Thanks for all your comments coming in. There's a comment came in from Paul Cockwell saying, we play better, the better team we played. Do you agree with that sentiment, Glenn?
I actually do. I was listening to a Scotland podcast earlier today, and they kind of said something similar to what Paul touches on there, because you look in the game of Moldova. Yes, we played well in terms of a team going forward, but when you look at like a Belgium or a Denmark playing these sort of teams, they blow these teams away 8-0. They play to their standard, whereas sometimes I think when Scotland are playing a so-called lesser opposition, our standards drop. I mean, look at the level of performance that we put in during the Euros. We're a level above what we've seen. Compare that to what we saw on Saturday night.
Absolutely. And Scotland under 21s are 1-0 up at half time, thanks to a great strike by Glenn Middleton. Thanks very much to Graham Caldwell for mentioning that. But back on to this evening's events. It's kicking off at 7:45, of course. We're waiting for the team lines to obviously come out. But as for Scotland, this would probably put down a marker going to the October games if we can go and get a win tonight, Glenn.
Yeah, and I think we touched on it at the kind of top of the show about like momentum coming into this game. And I think that's why there was a lot of negativity and frustration around the Moldova game, because only beating them 1-0 wasn't what many of us were expecting. We were expecting 3 or 4, blow them away, carry that confidence into what is a big game tonight. You go out tonight and beat Austria, providing Denmark do what they should do and beat Israel. We then go into the October break sitting in second, and the playoff spot is in our control. We would have the momentum from beating Austria. We saw 40,000 at Hampden against Moldova. I would fully expect similar, if not near a sellout for that game. A full Hampden, we all know it'll be under the lights, 5 o'clock kickoff Saturday. You just want to keep that momentum. If we find ourselves going into that game behind Israel, it's just a whole different kettle of fish. So you want to, in I think the international stage, keep momentum and have that on your side.
Of course, for a Scotland game, you want full houses every international at Hampden Park, but having 40,000 for a Moldova game is decent enough within itself.
Decent enough within itself, but I think that should be a wake-up call to the SFA for getting the pricing right, and I suppose you should congratulate them for doing so. I'm a Scotland Supporters Club member, so my ticket for Saturday was just £15, as it is for the remaining home games. And I think it was fairly priced at £20 or £25 for non-members, certainly for adults, depending on where you were sitting. And it's much better than the high £30, £40 that we've been seeing previously. And, I suppose as well, that game was a Saturday. Might have been a different sort of crowd had it been played on the Wednesday night instead. But regardless, you've still got to. It's great to see full crowds returning to Hampden instead of the 10 to 12,000 that we've been seeing previously.
This is probably a great time to play Austria, just in the sense of if you go back to June, give Italy in the Euros a great game, and then they've slowly but surely dwindled in the space of 3 months.
Yeah, but then I suppose you would look at maybe a pessimistic Scotland fan would look at that performance against the Italians at the Euros and say, this is what they can do. But then you see what they did against the Israelis and go, oh, yes, perfect opportunity, great opposition to play tonight. I still think, though, and that's why I said it, earlier, the fact that they're at home, they're going to have their home crowd with them. Will that play an advantage? We saw in domestic competitions last season, certain home teams struggled when they were playing in front of their own fans. Will Scotland benefit from that tonight? A team under pressure, if they make some mistakes, don't take chances, and Scotland can capitalise on that, the crowd will turn, and we'll see if that can work in our favour.
Would you maintain the defensive system this evening, considering Austria have a more quality of an abundance in attack, such as your Baumgartners and your Arnautovic and Schoff, if I've pronounced that correctly?
I'm glad you're doing the pronunciations, not me. But I would personally, I like Jack Hendry for Scotland. I don't really understand all the criticism he gets. Don't know if it's fully justified or not. He's still a young guy learning his trade, got his big money move in the summer. So for me, I'd be happy because as well, you don't want to make too many changes to that area of the team because they've gone and had a game and learnt an understanding with Craig Gordon. You need to kind of build that as games go by. The more you change it, players then will lose that understanding that they're having with teammates. And for a game like tonight, we need to try and keep as much consistency as possible.
Because, I mean, getting the win tonight means momentum, but then heading in October, mentality is a massive thing, and people might go mentality when Carl McGregor's saying what he's saying, but sometimes it could be mind games, sometimes it could be honest truth, but then getting a result tonight would mean that Austria is in a precarious position to try and get that number 2 spot moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say it, but if we win tonight, would you almost rule the Austrians out of second place? Is that too early to say? Austria have also got the luxury of having what Scotland had at the Euros. They've got that playoff space confirmed because they won their Nations League group. So are their minds elsewhere, knowing that it doesn't matter for them if they finish third or fourth, they're still going to be in a playoff to get to the World Cup. Whereas Scotland, because of our failure after qualifying for the Euros to go on to win the group, we are now left with having to finish second minimum to get the playoff, because again, like I said earlier, first is pretty much out of reach. So we don't have that luxury anymore. So let's see what we can do.
With regards to, I've been told the teams are in, we'll get onto them later on in the show, but with regards to tonight, where could the game be won and lost for you, Glenn?
From a Scotland point of view,
anything. We'll start Scotland.
It can be lost from defensive mistakes. We saw how easily kind of Denmark passed through us at times. I think that'll be an area the Austrians might look to exploit. It can be won from a Scotland point of view if we can be clinical in front of goal. Whether or not I have the confidence that we can be clinical in front of goals remains to be seen. Although, like I said, we'll come to the team lineups later on. That might change certain people's confidences around that. But yeah, I think for me, the Austrian point of view is whether or not Arnautovic is fully firing tonight, because he's maybe had a quiet campaign, but scored at the weekend, scored against Moldova. He'll be looking to make it 3-3 tonight, and I think for us, the danger is a wounded animal. You said their team under pressure, a management under pressure. They'll have an expectant crowd wanting a reaction. Are we going to suffer from that? Are we going to be on the end of an Austrian reaction? And for me, that's the big worry.
The teams have, of course, just been announced. Craig Gordon starts and goal. Number 2, Shewan, Stephen O'Donnell. Yeah. Andy Robertson, number 3. Billy Gilmore, 4. Grant Hanley, 5. Kieran Tierney, 6. Number 7, John McGinn. 8, Carl McGregor. Number 9, Lyndon Dykes. Number 10, Shea Adams. And number 13, Jack Hendry. Glenn, what's your thoughts on that team initially, please?
Well, like I said to you, almost said, don't want too many changes in defence. We've just made the one change in defence. Stephen O'Donnell, as expected, filling in. I expected Callum McGregor to return to the starting lineup. Not really surprised it's at Ryan Christie's expense, because he wasted a glorious chance at the weekend, but a largely anonymous performance from him. I'm actually really happy to see Dykes and Adams linking up top. I think that's our 2 best strikers. They can cause problems, both of them as individuals. We've seen often enough how often Shea Adams likes to take snapshots from the edge of the box, and I think that's what we need to see tonight. If you get that moment of space, to have a shot, take it. You know, we saw, I think it was at Copenhagen when Andy Robertson laid the ball off for Kenny McLean, and I thought for me it was a better opportunity for Robertson to shoot. Unfortunately, he's not right-footed, and that's why he decided to do the layoff. And it was behind Kenny McLean, but I think Adams and Dykes both individually have that confidence in their own ability to take opportunities at goal. So, and that's what we need to do, because if you don't take the shot, you don't win the lottery. So,
back onto tonight, and the fact that we now know the team. The fact that we've got both Lyndon Dykes and Shea Adams up front is probably a huge positive, just in the sense that they do a lot of unnoticed work, but also they can score goals.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we've got to be worried about that, because if they kind of stuff the midfield and stop our creativity, you know, look at Billy Gilmore and what he can do in terms of, you know, his range of passing and ability to get Scotland up the pitch. If they can stifle us, it's how do we regroup? Will we, or can we use the wing backs and exploit the width? You know, you touched on there the 3-4-3 formation that Austria like to play. Will there be space in behind their midfield that we can exploit?
Absolutely. With regards to the rest of the team, obviously John McGinn, Carl McGregor, and Billy Gilmore come in, and they're probably going to be key just in the basis of two things. Both, one, where Sabitzer being out this evening, and two, they're under strength, and that might be the wrong expression to use here. When you look at Sabitzer being out, it is an under strength Austrian midfield this evening. So them three midfielders are probably going to be key for Scotland this evening.
I know you say it's maybe under strength, but it's still a quality midfield that they have, and it's an experienced midfield that the Austrians have. Let's not, you know, beat about the bush on that aspect, but we're probably going in. It's probably our strongest team that we could play, and I like that. You know, we're not leaving anything on the bench, and you know, we're going to chase the game as it goes on. I think it's a signal of intent from Steve Clarke. And yeah, I just hope, like I said earlier, that we can kind of have that mindset that we're going to come out and go at the Austrians rather than sit back first 10, 15 minutes, see how they take the game to us and build from there. I'd like to see us take the game to Austria and kind of to touch on what you said there, see if that understrength midfield can cope with some of the quality that we have. Because if you can start creating doubt in their mind, then we can certainly build on that.
On the bench this evening for Scotland is the two goalies and Liam Kelly and Xander Clarke. Ryan Christie, Scott McKenna, Declan Gallagher, Liam Cooper, Lewis Ferguson, David Turnbull, Kevin Nisbet and Paul McGinn. Glenn, if there's anybody that's going to come off the bench and change a game, who is it?
Well, I suppose your obvious one would be Ryan Christie, because the pace he can bring. I've actually been very surprised at how little game time David Turnbull's received this international break. You know, he's been on form for Celtic so far this season. He's scored a hat-trick already. You know, maybe a bit of an unknown quantity to the Austrians. I'm sure they've done their homework, but could we see him come on and have an impact over a Ryan Christie, who, let's be honest, hasn't had his best couple of games for Scotland recently? And yeah, you know, why not give Turnbull that chance to show what he can do?
Absolutely. Looking at the social media comments just coming in just now, there's a lot of people saying that this is a good team, and nobody can question Steve Clarke's intent, irrespective of recent results, and that'll be his impetus going into this evening. Yeah,
I mean, people like to, you know, dig into the results that we've got and the fact that he's only managed to beat, you know, the poorer quality teams in recent weeks. But let's not forget, you know, people say it was only a friendly. We were a couple of minutes away from beating the Dutch, which was a quality Dutch outfit that night in Portugal. A respectable draw with England in the Euros, where on another night with other chances, I know John Stones hit the post, but you know, after that, I thought we definitely had the better chances. So he certainly can get the best out of this side. We've set up tonight with what you've said, they're probably our best side. So Steve Clarke's gone and shown the intent, but as often as we've seen, we do a lot of talking off the pitch. Let's see it on the pitch tonight. Let's go and get that result instead of just talking about getting it.
Obviously, at the state of Scottish football, we like to do our homework in these things. I mean, we cover every blade of grass. And one bit of grass I didn't cover was the fact that Austria's captain, Baumgartlinger, now that's professionalism. Bayer Leverkusen midfielder is injured and is obviously the captain. That's another massive positive from a Scotland point of view.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it'd be the same if Andy Robertson was out for Scotland. You know, it's never easy missing your captain, your leader in that team. But let's be honest, they've got a ready-made replacement in David Alaba as a stand-in captain. He's more than capable. But you know, Bayer Leverkusen midfielder is a quality player. You know, can chip in with plenty of goals. He can set the goals up as well. That's a big playmaker for them to not have for what is ultimately a crucial game for both sides. So yeah, from a Scotland perspective, you've got to be happy that the Austrians are missing such a key player.
And of course, on the Austria player front, Clarke, who plays for Stuttgart, scored both goals against Scotland at Hampden, so another big player missing.
Yeah, as I said that earlier. He was, out for the whole campaign. He's out for the rest of the season. I think it was only one of his, first handful of appearances when he popped up with that 2 goals at Hampden. But we know what he can do that night, and he looked a very good threat. I thought Arnautovic was actually quite quiet that night at Hampden, but equally we know what he can offer going forward for them. But you've got to. It's all well and good them missing these players, but not if we can't take advantage of it.
Now, obviously, a lot of people might not give the Austria the respect they deserve. And from a Scotland point of view, it's important that we are respectful, but also willing to battle. And one thing about Austria, and you sort of forget about it when these big players we mentioned get injured, but irrespective, Austria's got, from the squad tonight, 13 players in the Bundesliga, 4 players in the La Liga, 2 players in the La Liga, 4 players in the Austrian Bundesliga, 1 player in the Serie A, and 1 player playing in the English Premier League, which just shows the strength they have.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And like you said earlier as well, they took the Italians a fair distance at the Euros, and had it not been for VAR, could have quite easily knocked them out of the Euros. And then you never know what happens. But they're no mugs. At the end of the day, they are a good footballing side. They have plenty of quality. The players that play in high quality leagues, as you've listed off there. But when teams miss key players, vital players, teams have got to take advantage of that. But on the other hand, I suppose the Austrians will be looking at players to come in, step up, and capitalise on their opportunity. We saw it when Scotland went to the Czech Republic in the Nations League and faced, a B side because of all the COVID injuries. We had a tough night that night because there was players there playing for the opportunity to get into further squads. We could be in for that again tonight. Players that don't often get an opportunity because the likes of Baumgartlinger and Kalajdzic, as you say, they would be more regular starters. Other players have now got opportunities.
Absolutely. The game's obviously live on Sky Sports at 7:45 this evening. But looking at the overall picture, we've obviously got a lot of opportunities here, and probably an opportunity. When you look at this game as a whole, Glenn, would you be looking at us maybe getting an early goal or a goal in the first half and then building on that, or is it a case of being patient and then trying to get that goal and get the positive result we strive for after that?
I would like us to try and come out and grab an early goal if we can. I don't think that I would say I don't think that's going to be Steve Clarke's mindset. I think he will try and keep it tight and then hit Austria later on. But I think if Israel lose tonight, folk won't view a draw as necessarily a bad result because, with the way the fixtures pan out, I suppose you could argue it would still, the opportunity for second place would still be in our hands. I just feel that for tonight, you're really in competition with 2 other teams for second place in Austria and Israel. if we almost want to kind of get rid of one of them, we need to go out and win tonight. And I think that, for me, would just make me feel better. So for me, I'd rather like to see us come out and kind of attack from the off, get that early goal. And then, Steve Clarke is renowned for having good defensive sides. I would trust this side to, maybe have a bit of fight about them to hold on to a lead and protect that.
You've led me on perfectly to the next question, because I was away to mention something very similar, and just in the aspect of, would it probably mean a lot to Scotland fans that they're not exactly seeing too expansive football, yes, but not too expansive football, but also we're balancing it out with putting in good defensive performances, and it would probably go a long way to proving a few Steve Clarke doubters wrong.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that's going to be kind of the key for tonight, is just to make sure when we are playing that nice football, though, and creating those chances, we've got to be taking them. And I think a lot of the frustration from Saturday stems from not taking those chances. If we were speaking about winning, 6-0 at the weekend, I don't think there would be many Steve Clarke doubters, as you say there, because we've shown that we can dismantle teams at will. But unfortunately, we're not showing that. And I think if we can go and get a result, especially with it being away from home, that will be a confidence boost, not only for the players, but also Steve Clarke as well, in just saying, hey, look, I do actually know what I'm doing, regardless of what the thousands of football managers on social media might think otherwise.
Just to clarify, Football Manager on the laptop is nothing to football management within itself. We're waiting for the Austria team-wise. I don't think they're anywhere to be noticed.
I have seen that they have made. Did they make changes?
But looking ahead to this evening, and Austria, with the fact that they have loads of injuries at this precise moment in time, and on top of the fact that the camp's not in a good way, it's a terrific opportunity, and we just have to make sure that we're in a position where we can most importantly get the 3 points. But it's about also balancing it out with playing fantastic, exciting football alongside that, and pleasing the fans a little bit more.
In terms of tonight,
yeah,
I think you can't. It's going to be a fine balance, because I think it's fine to have that kind of expansive football. Hampden's a big pitch. I'm not sure what the pitch is like that we're playing on tonight, but I think you've got to be a bit more sensible away from home. You can have that expansive football, but also know that when you're away from home, you're not likely to have as much as the ball as you would in, necessarily a home game. So when you do have the ball, it's about, being clever with it. I always remember something that Joey Harper said to me from a charity game that I did with him. He says, make sure you pass the ball and pass the ball well, because a ball will always move faster and quicker than a player can. So when we're in possession, if we can, use our passing players such as Billy Gilmore, Callum McGregor can, he can pick up a good pass and spray the ball. If we can, tire this Austrian team out, because as we said, they're ultimately going to be wanting 3 points as much as us, because they need a reaction from the disappointing defeat. So as much as I would like to see us play expansive attacking football, I would like to see us play clever football tonight.
I'm having a wee look at BBC here, and Billy Dodds has came out and says that he doesn't hope Scotland sit off. Do you kind of agree with what Billy said there?
Scotland sitting off?
Yeah.
No, I don't want us to sit off, because I think we saw that in Copenhagen, because when we sat off, we allowed Denmark time to kind of work us out. We didn't heed the warning in Copenhagen of a couple of balls in from our right-hand side exploiting Tierney. So if we sit off Austria and let them, work out, okay, there's a weakness here, or there's someone's not up to the standard there, then we're on the back foot even further. We need to assert ourselves, in my opinion, because we need to be creating the problems for the Austrians, not letting them try and solve, where they thought might be an issue, and then go, okay, that's fine, we've identified. I was going to pick on Stephen O'Donnell, but I don't want to do it. Pretty much like say, there's an area that we can exploit. He's not played I was just going to say, he's not played for 10 days. Is he going to be a bit rusty? Let's see what he's like. Let's focus that on the Austrians. You've touched on them being under strength. Let's see if their midfield can cope with a bit of pressure on them early on. So I think if we sit off them, that's the wrong tactic to have.
Very briefly, I'm going to take a wee breather from international football and tell you that Raith Rovers are 2-0 up against Ayr United in the Championship. But on to a comment that Graham Caldwell has put on. He says, I'm not necessarily sure you could blame the manager for Saturday. There were plenty of chances created, but the players were wasteful. It wouldn't have been injustice if we'd scored 5. Do you agree with that, Glenn?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a very fair comment because there's only so much the manager can do. The manager can't physically put the ball in the back of the net. That's down to the players to do that. Billy Gilmore, I think, was the probably best chance that we didn't take between him and Ryan Christie, certainly in the second half. Grant Hanley will probably be wondering how he didn't get any of his headers on target. So, yeah, we're creating, but, even the Andy Robertson chance in the first half, which was, I think, it's another one of his bit of, rush to the head and got excited, saw his name up in lights that he was going to score another goal for Scotland. We just need to just take a second, just show that bit of experience and composure that's maybe been lacking in front of goal, and hopefully they can start flowing.
Exactly. On to obviously tonight. I'll know we've obviously got 15 minutes to go, but early prediction based on seeing the Scotland team.
I would have liked to see the Austrian team to maybe balance out a bit, but I'm gonna say a 1-0 Scotland win.
Yeah, I'm gonna be pretty positive as well and say I'm gonna go for a 2-1 Scotland. I think both teams will score. I'm saying 2-1 Scotland based on the fact that both sides have positive attacks, but also on occasion, not all the time, on occasion, both sides can be vulnerable at the back as well. And is that a situation we need to take positivity from, Glenn? Just the fact that Austria can be organised, but they can be vulnerable in the same sentence as well.
Yeah, to be honest, I was kind of leaning towards a 2-1 as well, and I was a bit wondering where we were scoring 2 goals from. And I think for tonight as well, the first goal is going to be massively important for the game as a whole, and that's easy to say and probably a classic footballing cliche, but it really is. If Scotland go and get that first goal, that's something for us to protect, because like I touched on earlier, we heard it from the mentality maybe of Callum McGregor. Scotland won't be disappointed leaving Vienna tonight with a point. Whereas if we have to chase the game from 1-0 down, we then find ourselves in a problem where we could be exposed to the counter-attack. And I think for me that's not something that's going to suit us.
In terms of we'll go back to Steve Clarke, and this is probably not his biggest game. It's never going to be his biggest game in its stretch of imagination, but I think it's going to be one of his biggest games in terms of his Scotland tenure, just on the basis of if he wins tonight, it's another step in the Steve Clarke journey.
I don't really know if it's his biggest game in his tenure. I'd have maybe said that game against the Croatians in the Euros would have definitely been his biggest game.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we know how that story panned out, but certainly if we can go there and pick up 3 points tonight, it sets up maybe you could say his next biggest game, which would be the Israel game, because again, we're saying this is in the hope that the Danes go and win tonight. We could potentially be, this time next month, be sitting 4 points clear in second place.
And the thing is that with a win tonight, huge positives, but also huge opportunities with regards to how this group can pan out. And with that win, it will help massively towards that second place that we're probably craving of. But the question is, can we think about the first or that pole position, bigger pardon, or is it more or less
no? It's the second place. Pole position's gone. I think you think even the most optimistic Tartan Army foot soldiers not going to be thinking that we can top this group. But another interesting note as well, I suppose, looking into tonight's game, is the amount of players that we've currently got on a booking that would, if they were to pick up a booking tonight, would subsequently miss the Israel game. Looking at Lyndon Dykes, McGinn, Hanley. Hanley's on one, and I'm pretty sure Ryan Christie's on one as well. So if any of these players are to pick up a booking tonight, we're then missing them for the Israeli game. And Kevin Nisbet's another, obviously, him and Christie both being on the bench. But tonight, if we go and get a result, it could potentially, we could have a price to pay if we see these players, picking up bookings. And, when I come to think of Dykes, Nisbet, being two players that are on a booking, we're not exactly blessed with strikers and good striking options. So we don't want to be looking ahead to October and possibly only having Che Adams there leading the line on his own.
By the way, well done, Glenn, because I was just testing you there because, of course, Denmark have taken a firm hold of Group F, winning all 5 games for Casino goal. With a 5-point lead at the top, they face Israel this evening, who are, of course, in second. And tonight's a big evening in the sense that if we go win and then Denmark can go and do us a wee favour, we're in a pretty good place.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's why there will be certain tournament members. That's what I just said there about even if we draw tonight, a lot of the permutations from a Scotland point of view is relying on Denmark winning tonight. Because if Denmark win, Scotland could accept a draw, but then you have to go and follow that up and beat Israel. We need 4 points as a minimum from our next 2 World Cup qualifying group games, providing Denmark win tonight.
Austria team has came out, and thanks very much to Graham Caldwell, who's put it in the comment section. They're playing a 4-3-2-1. Bashman starts in goals. Back 4, by the sounds of it, of Trimmel, Dragovic, Hinteregger, and Olsanka. A freeze, beg your pardon, of Schaub. I think I've got that right. Grilic, Alaba, and the 2 of Lehmer and Baumgartner, and then Artevich up front by himself. A strong lineup, Glenn.
Yeah, the Christmas tree formation. It's not really the formation I expected them to kind of go with. That, to me, looks on paper a bit defensive-minded from their point of view. I just wonder if they'll maybe use that 4 and if it'll turn into the opportunity to go as a 3 at the back and then make it into 3-4-3 like you touched on. Just wonder if UEFA have got it put up as a 4-3-2-1. Because I think for a home team to be lining up like that does seem a bit defensive. But no, it's a strong team. Premier League keeper in goals, who's done well for Watford so far in the season. Arnautovic, he's in form for the Austrians, scoring in both this period, and the experience of Alaba and Baumgartner in midfield as well. So, look, they've got players that are going to cause us problem. We just have to hope that we can cause them more than they do us.
Comments are coming in. Thanks very much for continuing flying with your comments. Glenn, would you agree with Strangelove the Doctor when he says they're looking to beat us in transition with that lineup?
Possibly. But then again, I think this is going to be the importance for our midfield. And that's what I'm saying there about how we need to assert ourselves in the game early on, and why I have a disagreement with what Doddsy was saying about sitting off the Austrians, because if they are going to try and look to beat us in transition, we can't allow them to impose themselves on the game, because we're then going to be on the back foot. I really want us to be taking the game to them tonight.
Of course, I've just actually noticed myself when you look at the Scotland team and the Scotland bench. On the bench, we've only got David Turnbull, and if you take it into consideration, Ryan Christie, before Christie jetted off to Bournemouth last week. Apart from that, we've got players on the bench that don't feature for our Old Firm side, and if we need to rely on the bench, it's a huge positive if we can get a player on and then go and change the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's refreshing that, the squad isn't made up of entirely Old Firm players. They're, players that are being picked on merit for, club performances, although as we touched on at the top of the show, maybe there's a bit of doubt on how that makes Paul McGinn in there, but I know he has had a solid start for Hibs. But look, there's players there, and that's why I said, I'd be inclined to allow David Turnbull off the bench, a player with a point to prove for the international stage. Kevin Nisbet, when he came on for his debut against the Dutch, came on, scored a goal. These are players that have that moment of quality, and hopefully, if needed later on tonight, they can provide that when called upon.
Comments coming in again. Edward Easton is coming now saying Christmas tea formation, white set for Scotland, but when you can look at this any way you possibly can. You can look at this as in a Scotland will get opened up in terms of the transition play, but you can also look at this in the sense of Scotland maintain their current system, and they maintain the decent performances that they've been putting in, but also it allows us to maintain our system, and it allows us to maintain the structure that we've got in place.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, and I think that's why, I referred to earlier, I didn't want us to make too many changes tonight, because we've got players that are used to playing this system. They know their roles in the team and in the system that Clarke has tried his best to impose, and is working towards, getting the best out of. So if we change too much for what is an important game, I suppose to say what Dozzy said, we'd be on the back foot, and maybe we would need to sit off Austria until players kind of familiarize themselves with those roles. So I think, we are in a good place going into tonight. I just really want us to, put that performance onto the pitch.
One way of looking at this, and obviously time's running out, so I'm going to look at possible permutations as the game progresses, but one permutation could be is that if the game is hanging in the balance and we need more attack and impetus, you could possibly have a situation where you have Adams or Dykes up front and then Christie in the number 10 role, as they call it.
Yeah, you could. I'm just looking at the team there to see who I would sacrifice. We know what quality McGinn can provide, but maybe with his COVID diagnosis recently, might not be fully fit. So could it be at the expense of a John McGinn? You have two kind of holding midfielders there, and McGregor and Gilmore. Sacrifice one of them. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that game goes. But it's good to have those players that could make an impact available to come off the bench.
Jack Henry is obviously still in, and you raised the fact that you were quite happy with him, and his pace recovery and pace probably enables Scotland to play 10 or 15 yards up the park.
Yeah, absolutely, but also so does Grant Hanley's, because he's one of the quickest players in the team, much to many people's surprise. He does have a fair motor on him, so both those two allow us pace, and we know what Kieran Tierney can offer as well. So those back three, I'm really happy with. Folk will probably pick on Jack Hendry as being the weaker or the weakest member of that back three, but yeah, from what I've seen so far of him, I don't have too many complaints.
Murray Shinwell, thanks for your comment. We've both went for Scotland to win. Glenn went for 1-0 Scotland, and I went for 2-1 to Scotland. But on to this evening, and with regards to if we get a result tonight, and obviously we do get excited if Scotland ever get a result, because I mean, you look at it in the sense of it overshadows the disappointment that's being a Scotland fan involved. But with regards to this evening, it probably rounds off a decent instalment of games if we can get 2 wins out of 3. Something that you wouldn't have thought about last Wednesday evening after the Denmark game, where there was so much negativity.
Definitely. I think if obviously it depends how results pan out. Maybe folk didn't expect the Israelis to beat Austria, but if you'd offered folk 4 points from these 3 games, many Tartan Army would have taken that. 6 points is possibly above expectation. And again, like we said, we're obviously expecting the Danes to continue just to steamroll everybody. So if they do that tonight, 6 points from us from these 3 games puts us in an excellent position going into October.
Looking at the team, consensus is a massive thing, and there's probably consensus in this team.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting that consistency in amongst the players, and we need to keep building on that, and hopefully we can do that again tonight.
Absolutely. Now, time's running out, and thank you very much to Glenn Schroeder. Obviously, we're both dandies, but we both have an international brain about us as well. And thanks very much to all the viewers that have tuned in. I've been David Smith, and thanks very much to the debutant Glenn Schroeder. I'm pretty sure he's had a strong debut, and we'll get him in improved terms moving forward, and make sure he gets an improved deal by the hierarchy of the state of Scottish football. But until tomorrow night, thanks very much.